over the last 20 years. Today, he is going to explain to us and he's going to share his experiences to all of us. And please come out with your questions as you have done in the past with all the other speakers too. To just give you a brief background, Vinay Prakash is a classic case of how a professional also embeds the skills of an entrepreneur in his career. He's a person who's actually transformed himself from a pure professional to a real entrepreneur and also has got the best of both the worlds. So learn from him how to become an entrepreneur. Although he is trained as a professional, how he converted himself into an entrepreneur. That's one of the lessons that he has taught me. Another important thing is that apart from having a very good academic career, what I understand now is also pursuing his PhD. So talk about that also. That what makes him learn continuously. What does it mean learning continuously? And I have to only tell you a couple of things. As I said, many of our people here in Adani are people who have been everywhere, they have seen everything, and then they've done everything. In fact, the entire cycle of a business is totally understood by them. They are very comfortable not only in their operational areas but in the entire functional areas too. You ask him about finance, you ask him about law, you ask him about people issues. Vinay is one who can answer you on all the questions and extremely practically use all of those skills to become a very extremely popular and very, very effective CEO. Vinay, thanks for coming. Over to you. Please take us through your journey and share with us your rich experiences. Thank you, Vinay.
Thanks, Devang bhai. In fact, it's really nice to hear from you all this, which confirms that last 20 years of my being with the Adani Group has not gone waste, and I'm getting recognition from a person of your stature. In fact, one thing which I disagree with you is that you have learned from me. In fact, for the purpose of the audience, I did learn from Devang bhai a lot, and he was made coach also for me for 1 year plus, where I got a good financial understanding from him in terms of how the share prices works, how you need to address investors, and how you have to take care of your stakeholders and shareholders. So that was a good learning, Devang bhai, and in fact, I'm sure that all the persons who are joining for 2022 batch are really going to get benefited with the experience of Devang bhai, who not only having the work experience, but is also having now an experience of teaching, in fact, professional like me also, and youngsters like you also, who are going to be there on the board. Do we have the presentation or not?
Yeah, we do have the presentation, sir. Yeah. So just guide me when to move the slides. All right. Okay. It has been shared from there. No problem. Yeah. We can continue, sir.
First of all, on behalf of Adani Group, welcome to the dear batch, which is now going to start the batch in 20 and going to complete in 22. I'm sure you all must be having a very high anxiety level, considering that you are joining at the time when the complete world is fighting with the anxiety when the vaccine is going to come. What is going to happen in this COVID? What is going to be the change in the business scenario? What is going to happen after 2 years in terms of the job scenario? Which are the companies who are going to survive for long? Which are the companies who are going to buckle? And all this uncertainty will definitely lead to a path which is less stable. You're going to really have something different than what we have seen in our last 27, 28 years of being in the professional life. Now, when we talk about the 3 years, next 3 years, next 2 to 3 years, which you're going to spend in this institute, you're really going to see a recoupment of economy. Definitely, the concept of working from home, which was never thought of being a reasonable one. We always used to have the thinking that we all need to work together, sit in our office area, do an interaction, do brainstorming there in office itself, and then only we can get a better efficiency, we can get better productivity than actually working at home. I think it has proven wrong. In last 3 4 months, almost 80 90% of us are working from home. I am also almost 75% working from home only, and I'm finding that not only the productivity is high, but it is actually helping me in getting into a structured back-to-back meetings. Earlier, when we used to have a meetings in office, in general, the meeting of half an hour used to get completed in 1 hour time. Now we are so structured that the meeting of 1 hour is getting completed in 1 hour, meeting of half an hour is getting completed in half an hour. Definitely, this is going to have a dramatic growth in e-learning. This particular pandemic is going to give us a lot of push for digital strategies. In fact, the mining business in which we are in, and which has been always a conventional mining business of a dozer, of having a truck and shovel, is now moving to see as how we can have a digital strategies to have it as a digital mine. And we all are working to see that we move from having an operation based at only in the field to have it as a control room operated business. Something in which Adani Group is definitely interested to pioneer. We wish to be the first digital company, digital mining company of the world. I don't see the big names of Rio Tinto, Peabody, and even the BHP Britain are true in the true manner are the digital mining companies. We wish to compete with them and to excel over them to be the first digital mining of the world now. And when you have a digital mining, definitely the need of analytics and data engineering is going to play a major role for a decision making. Till now, we have been taking decisions on the basis of experience, on the basis of knowledge. But then the time has come when we need to see as how we can have analytics and data engineering playing a role, mathematics, which has been playing a role in the older time, now coming again to see as how they can play a role in a proper decision making, giving more decision tools to the management to take proper decision for a better productivity, for better financial numbers. And all this will help us in having a better learning modules. Now, in fact, since I've been requested to share my story, let me take you through with my personal life and then with my educational background, and I would like to try to give a reply to what Devang Bhai asked as why I'm still pursuing a PhD at the age of 47. I just completed 47, so 47, 48, I'm still pursuing to get the second PhD from IIT ISM Dhanbad. I'll share as why I'm doing it and what is the purpose. In fact, I belong to UP, Uttar Pradesh. There's a place called Muzaffarnagar, which is famous for sugarcane, which is famous for gold, which is also famous and which is also infamous for a lot of Hindu-Muslim rights in the past. So I'm born in Muzaffarnagar, brought up in East UP, Bahraich, then Lakhimpur, and then again the last leg of my educational schools, I came back to Muzaffarnagar for 12th. Belong to a humble family. My father got retired as a junior engineer in UP irrigation. So we used to have a life where I still remember that we used to travel in trains in a general coaches train in like Lucknow Mail or Chandi Express from Lucknow to Hapur. And in Hapur, since I have two younger sisters, we all three plus my mother used to share between four of us to decide as who will run and catch the bus and hold 4 seats for 4 of us. So mostly me and my younger sister used to run after getting out of that general coach in Hapur to get the train. And that's how the life was. So in fact, this is what I learned, that since the life has given me a lot of reasons to have a value of money, to have a value of time, I believe that has been one of the reasons why I could do better in terms of taking the financial decisions. Now, going from there, getting into doing the 11th, 12th in Muzaffarnagar, and in fact, just to share a failure story of mine, in 12th, I used to feel that, and not me, my teacher used to feel that I'll top UP board. Because the way I was performing in 11th and 12th, we all were very confident, including my parents also, that I'll be in top 3 of UP board in that particular year of 1993. But when the result came, my percentage was almost 18% lower than what actually I have targeted for, or what I have dreamed for. And that was a big shock for me. It was a surprise for my parents. It was a shock for me. And as usual, I got a good handsome amount of beating from my father on that day. And that actually pushed me to a level where I actually decided that I need to do something which will make my parents proud. And in next 18 days, there was examination of CEE, combined entrance examination. And those 18 days, actually, I had pushed hard to see that I should get one chance of proving myself. And that was the time when I really worked hard. I did work hard for 12th also, but some of the results were not aligned with my interest. I worked hard for 18 days and I got admission in that. I got selected in CE. Those ranks were very low. But that actually made me believe that what happened in that particular 12th result happened for the good. Had I got complacent, I would not have tried for C the way I tried this at that time. And I got selected. After getting C, getting through with C, when we went for that interview where you get the appointment for the various colleges, because it's a combination of many colleges, state colleges and regional colleges. I selected Lucknow in a waiting list. So again, I was not having a right proposition to go there and desire and claim for a particular stream which I was desiring for. But it was a luck again, and I did work hard for 3-4 months time when we used to perform in the first semester, and I got mechanical engineering there in 89. Sorry, it was 89, not 93. 89 in UP Engineering College, Lucknow, do my 4-year engineering. And when we talk about the value of money, and I still discuss and tell my kids also as how even our chairman value for the money for everything which we spend. My complete engineering expenses was 22,000 rupees for 4 years, and I did that with a very focused here that I was not interested to put any pressure on my parents. So 4 years passed. Started with the mediocre. For 3 years, I was not in the list of any top 10 or top 15 students of IIT Engineering College. And then I realized that importance of being in top 5 and top 3 matters, because all the teacher recognizes only when you are in top 3 or top 5. Or there might be some peer pressure also, which actually pushed me to be the topper of GATE in 93. To be the topper of the university in 93. In the last year, I got 10 out of 10 CGPA, and my rank was 7th in the country in GATE. And so at that time, I was having an opportunity to go for IIT Kanpur. At that time, to go for my MTech, but then again something happened, and I could not attend the interview of MTech. I had to attend a marriage of my friend and my brother also, who were getting married together, and I missed that opportunity of going to IIT Kanpur for MTech. And at that time, I got selected through campus interview in Indigo Fertilizer, which was Aditya Birla Group. So I was selected there. So I thought that though I was interested to get into IITs for MTech, considering that IITs are having the brand name. But finally, I said, okay, fine. Since I'm not getting there, let me settle with Indogroup Fertilizer. I worked there for 2 years in mechanical maintenance. Then I realized that the growth in engineering line is slower than the growth in techno-commercial line. This was my thought process at that time. So I started, doing PG diplomas. I did PG diploma in matrix management, then operation management, then industrial management, then going for MBA. And in that process, I got selected in the matrix management function of Indogroup Fertilizer for a company which was coming in Bijnor. It was a cement plant of Aditya Birla Group. But to my luck or bad luck, I consider it as a luck. I never consider it as a bad luck, but to my luck at that time, that company got sold off. So I was again back to the mechanical maintenance. And then I got an opportunity to come to Birla Copper in '97, and where I worked for 4 years, moving from purchase department to some internal issues to stores, then to jetty port management, port marketing. And that's the time when I realized, now when I see it, in hindsight, I realized that all these changes, moving from mechanical maintenance to mechanical planning to purchase department to stores department to port commercial, actually made me a person who was having a good knowledge of all the gamut which is required for coal trading. So at that time, it was not my interest to come to Adani Enterprises for coal trading, but that was a luck that I did apply for Moser Beer. Because of some accident, I could not go there. I got a call from Lakshubai, who was our president there in Adani Group at that time. Met with Gautam Bhai, Rajesh Bhai, liked the way they spoke to me, the way they treated me, and I accepted to leave Aditya Birla Group at that time to join Adani Group. And you can understand, 20 years back, it was a difficult decision. I was the only person who was in for this decision, and everyone was not in favor of this decision. But I joined Adani Group at that time, and I must say today, after 20 years, that I do not regret any decision which I have taken at the time of joining Adani Group. The love, the affection, the guidance, the confidence which has been given by Gautam Bhai, Rajesh Bhai, Saurabh Dixit at that time, Devang Bhai, he was also there at that time, Amit Desai, any person you name who was the part of Adani Group in the last 20 years, they gave me so much of confidence that it is because of their confidence, because of their guidance, I'm here today.
So Vinay, again, to just interrupt you, yes, when you went through the Birla Group, was the rotation into various functions a conscious process, or how did you get to learn everything bit by bit, from materials to logistics to, was it a conscious rotation structure?
So it was, they definitely have a rotation policies of 2 to 3 years, but unfortunately in my cases, all the decisions were not the decision on the basis of merit. It was because of certain understanding, and I can share that understanding for the purpose of learning of my young friends. In fact, I joined Birla Copper in purchase department. I was very happy. I was at cloud 9 that I got what I was interested to make my career in. I was interested in making my career in purchase techno-commercial department. 2 years down the line, there was a requirement for someone to be shifted from stores to purchase. So I got the victim. I came into stores. So I thought it is a bad luck again. But again, it was lucky for me to be there in the stores because I learned a lot of tricks of stores being there in that function for 1.5 years. And there, I believe in 1999, Kumar Mangalam Birla ji had desired to make Dahej port commercial. In fact, since Devang Bhai has asked for this, it would be nice for me to share with you about this. That in 1999, when I was asked that let a techno-commercial guy be the head of the commercial operation of port, I got the opportunity despite of being a 25 years or 26 years old guy at that time. And at that time, I used to visit GMB along with competing with Malay Bhai, the stature of Malay Bhai and the stature of Mukesh Parekh. And I used to feel as how come Adani Group has done a mistake of developing or deciding a port at Mundra with which I can compete at any given point of time. I was operating the Dahej port. Malay Bhai and Mukesh Parekh was taking care of Mundra port. And I used to feel what is there? Why Adani has actually gone to Mundra having a locational disadvantage of 200 rupees, giving me a chance on a platter to win any business which I wish to win against Mundra Port at Dahej. But now, after 20 years, or maybe after 3-4 years itself, I realized that the chances of growth in Mundra was 100 times more than the chances of growth in Dahej. And this is how we talk about the vision of our people. When we used to discuss as a professional about Dahej port, we used to see about 3-4 million tons. You see, at that time, Gautam Bhai had envisaged about Mundra port. In 97-98, when he had decided about Mundra port, I'm sure Devang Bhai can definitely tell about it better than me. I don't think anybody would have actually agreed with him to develop a port at a place which is having a 200-kilometer locational disadvantage to the places of Surat and Ajira. But he decided, thinking and having a vision about that port, to be a 200 million tons of port. So that actually makes him different than many other people. And this is how I believe that I actually said about this in a meeting in GMB. I remember that particular gentleman is also with us in the Adani Foundation, Mr. Chaudhary, Mr. Peenrao Chaudhary. He was the GMB vice chairman. I used to handle DHL port, and Malay Bhai and Mukesh Parekh was there from Mundra port. Today, Mundra port is at 250 million tons and DHL port is gone. It's not even exist now. They are only handling captive cargoes and the commercial cargoes are not being allowed to.
So friends, Vinay is telling us a very important issue, that a professional has a plan. Now, a businessman's plan and a professional's plan, what is the difference? And over the next 20 years, Vinay started making a plan as a businessman. And then now you will see what is that scale at which he is aspiring and how it is different. So a very important concept of alignment of a professional to a businessman is what Vinay is telling us. A very important lesson, and which he himself experienced. At one point of time, we'll tell the story about Mundra Port and its uncertainties. But today we'll hear from Vinay about what it means to develop greenfield mining of that scale, which is as big as the Mundra Port scale itself. Yes, Vinay?
Yeah, so I second what Devang Bhai had said, and it's actually important for us to understand that when you work for a corporate where we have very structured corporate, where you have a promoter or the owner of the organization working as an investor, not as a hands-on promoter, and that actually creates a difference. The way Adani Group works. Here we have chairman who is hands-on, who is available 24/7, who is there on everything where he should be there. You have MD Mr. Rajadani, who has a connect with everyone who is working with the organization. You have the young generation of Parnav, Karan, and Jeet and our Sagar. They are so young and energetic that they are there for handling everything. There's no ego issues there. They are always interested to have a pro business. They want to have a scalable business. I always feel that I think we have come to this stage only because we always feel that we should learn something, we should learn again, and then we should be in position to conquer the business by having an aggression to be either number one and number two. When we see a line saying number one or number two, I don't think in our organization, even chairman or any one of us believes that we wish to be number two. We always say we want to be number one only. And that's a belief and confidence which we've got. And I must say this, that in last 20 years of my being with the group, that's something which has been my asset. Money, position, everything is secondary. But the way I've been shaped by promoter himself, by the team, by the management himself, is something which is actually now had given me a confidence that whenever I enter into any business, we don't see that we are a startup company in any business. We go as a startup company, and we always wish to have a competition with number one to be number one in next 4 to 5 years time. You see renewables, you see power, thermal power, you see port, you see mining business, you see any business which we talk about. We always go with small number. 5 years time, we start idea either number one or we are about to be a number one. So, in fact, so that's how I came in Adani Group in 2001. And considering that you guys are also going to have a job after 2 years, and then as youngsters, I also have a son who is going to be 21 years. So, the tendency that grow very fast, we always see a reason that, okay, fine, I have left Aditya Birla Group, I have joined Adani Group at a good jump. I was assistant manager, associate manager there. I got a job of senior manager in Adani Group in 2001. A jump of 2 lakh rupees in salary per annum. So I realized that in 1 year time, since I performed very well in coal trading, I joined with Mr. Pradeep Mittal for coal trading team business. I realized that in 1 year, since we have done a good job and we are competing with Glencore at that time, number one company of the world and the number one company of India. So I thought, why not joining Glencore for their India position, considering that I've already spent 1 year, I've done such a great job, and everything has been done by me only. I take the credit of this all development. I applied for Glencore. So I applied for Glencore in Switzerland, and that guy had actually forwarded my message, my email or whatever I've sent to him to the India head. And the India head is actually a good friend of mine for last 18, 19 years now. So at the time, we were not good friends because we were competing for that position of being India head of Glencore. So he forwarded my application to Gautam Bhai. So in 2002, 1 year after joining this company, I got a call from Gautam Bhai. Might be a first or second call only because I was not that close to Gautam Bhai that time, asking me as why I'm interested to leave the company. And my reply was very honest that I want to be with the leaders. I joined your company to understand trading. I have understood trading. I have done well in last 1 year. I want to be with number one company, leading company of trading, and I wish to join that company because I see a value there, a better value there for me. He was very calm, unlike Gautam Bhai, and he only said, okay, fine, I respect your decision, but I can only advise you that the values which you're going to get here by doing yourself and building yourself, you'll not get that value in a company where all the decision comes from Switzerland. So try to see that you are working in a startup company now. Coal trading is a startup for us. Try to build up this business for you. You will be the stakeholder of this business. And I can guarantee you that if you give a commitment to the business, you'll not see what you have given. You will never see. You'll never repent on your decision. Somehow at that time, I got very confidence in what Gautam Bhai had said. And I can tell you, 2002, 2020, it is now 18 years. I have heard about that particular line. In 18 years, I've never applied for any company. I have not gone to have any discomfort with the company to search for the job. And I can tell you, in the last 18 years, my growth has been phenomenally high. He had shown a lot of confidence in me and given a lot of responsibilities also. And things have gone far better than what would have been had I joined at that time that company or any other company. We are the leader in India. We are second. We are still the second in the world after Glencore because Glencore is having the asset base also. So since they have acquired Xstrata, so they are having 100 million tons of coal mining capacity, and in trading they are lower than us, but mining and trading they are higher than us. So only one dream which I have, which I saw in 2002 and is still there with me, is to be number one in the world. And we are still, I'm still living that dream along with Gautam Bhai's dream that in one day before I hang my boots, we wish to be number one in the world. And we are not too far. India Mining, if we add, and this is how Glencoe also had, we'll be definitely number one in next 5 years. For sure, if not before that.
Yeah, Vinay. So can we talk about your businesses or?
So Devang, what I've done is that I've kept the businesses at the end. Just few learnings of mine which I wish to share with my young friends.
Yes.
One thing which we normally do, this is I think one of the mantra which I keep on sharing with my my other CEOs also. Whenever I go and give any presentation to Gautam Bhai or to the management, I always keep the first slide as where I have failed. And this is how I have learned in last 12, 13 years that it is always good to talk about your failures openly and with courage also. But that helps you to really embrace your failure, to accept that yes, I have failed and why I have failed. It will always help you not to repeat your failure. And that's why I always believe that when we talk about the success and the failure, success is not a good teacher. It is a failure which is a better teacher. And we should learn more about the failures than about the success of any individual. And any person who talk about that he had always succeeded, I don't believe that. We get 1 out of 100, and in 1 out of 100 attempts we get one success. So I always feel that we should be always ready to accept our failures, own it, accept it. Another thing is that we need to continue working hard. When we talk about doing a PhD, and I can tell you why, in which subject I am doing PhD. I'm doing PhD in sustainable mining. Again, just to share a decision of Gautam Bhai. Gautam Bhai in 2008 decided that he wants to have a non-mining engineer to head mining business. I think Devang Bhai was there at that time with us, and I'm sure he might be a part of that decision making, saying yes or no. I don't know which he can tell now. But in 2008-9, Gautam Bhai decided that I want to see a non-mining engineer to head mining, to have a non-conventional thinking process to grow in our mining business. And when I entered into mining, I was not having any information. So what I did, I started learning from many ways, learning from my seniors, learning from the persons who were experienced there. And then I realized that I need to have something which is different than others. So sustainable mining subject which came in my mind was with an objective to be different than Coal India and many other miners, and to be in a position where we can speak about environment, where we can speak about society, where we can speak about many other things which is needed for you to be a sustainable miner for 100 years. And that's how I started working on my PhD. I've got some 4 or 5 good articles getting published in good journal, good to and for discussion with them. They got good comments from many big names, and made some changes also on those. In any articles which you see in my list took 6 to 8 months to get accepted in those journals with a lot of to and fro communications, and that actually helped me to have the understanding and the learning of as how other people are doing in other places. So when we talk about one PhD in sustainable mining, when we talk about one mining business of 100 million tons, I can tell you that it took 9,000 shots to get that one success in the mining also. So that's how I believe that we need to continue working hard to get what we dream for. Again, whenever we achieve any success, we always believe that that after the success, we should analyze if we could have done better. And that's something which I keep on doing in all my businesses. In all businesses, after any completion, even the successful event also, we analyze whether the target set was actually right or not. If we find that we've achieved 120% of the target, we again go back to the drawing board to see if the target was right or not. And that actually pushes us to always see that if we could have done extra efforts, we could have got many-fold increase in our results. And this is how we keep on building up our cases. We keep on building up our targets. I think Devang Bhai had seen those positions for almost 8, 9 years or 10 years. I've never gone for the growth of 8 to 10% in any of my business targets. We used to take the target of 80 to 100% growth every year for almost 6 to 8 years at those times. 2006 to 2013-14, the growth rate was as high as 80-90% on an annual basis. And that happened because we used to analyze that if we could do some more efforts to have the multiple increase in the results. This is very important for me, and I think it has been, you see, my personal goal was to work for Glencore, company like Glencore. So why I was interested in Glencore? Because it was #1 company. So it was my personal goal. So my performance goal was to make sure that we do a better tonnages in trading and then now in mining, and also to make good profits. So my personal goal got aligned with my performance goal. With my performance goal, there was a professional development goal of and the target and the vision of Adani Group to see that we are a fuel supplier to the industry on a end-to-end basis. We see all these three goals. When it gets aligned, you give a better result. And that's why I always say that if you're not comfortable with your work, try to see where you can amend your activities. Either you amend your personal goals or you amend your work goals. And once your work is aligned with your personal interests, you will always do a great job. And it's the only way to do a great job is to love what you do. I really love what I do. I really cherish any success which I get in trading, mining, bunkering, or any business which I do. And that's how this has been the reason why I've been always seeing these businesses as my own businesses. I never thought that I'm working for Adani Group as a professional. I always thought that it's my company and I'm delivering it from my own business. I own the business, and this is how we have been trained by Gautam Bhai that we are not a professional guys, we are professional entrepreneurs, and we are here to take care of our own business. Another important thing which I believe I'm good about it. Whenever you are meeting anyone, whenever you are dealing with any senior person, even your youngsters also, with your team members also, you always need to have a good listening skills. I always tell people that when you talk to any person, try to keep your mobile out. I think the biggest respect which anybody can give to other is to see that when he meets any person, he keeps his mobile out. That's the biggest respect I believe people can give nowadays. And that's why I say that it is good to have a good listening skills. You should learn people, listen people properly. You should understand what they are saying before saying something with your preoccupied mind. So that's something which I believe I should share with all of you. Teamwork, one of my strong reason of whatever we have achieved in all the 4 businesses which I take care. It's a teamwork and a mutual trust which makes us very strong. All are not equal, but all are having a different skills. And if we are aware of the strengths and weaknesses of each team members, I'm sure you'll agree that the teamwork will help you to achieve anything which you dream for. Just to share a number, for the 10 years of ICIP business, which is trading business, our attrition rate was as low as 0.3%, just because of having this mutual trust and the relationship between the team of ICM and now in mining. Very important point, believe in long-term commitment. As I said that had I left Adani Group in 2002, I could have also been doing something of my own. The gentleman who was there at the India head of that company is now running a gym. So you can see, had I left in 2002 Adani Group, after 5, 6 years, 8 years of working with Glencore, I would have been running either a restaurant or a gym, and not what I am doing today. So I believe that a long-term commitment actually helps you to focus in what you are doing, not on focusing on something which you are not supposed to do. So I always focus on what is needed by my company, by my organization, by my manager, and that actually paid me well. I was taking care of my business, my target, and they were taking care of my needs, my personal growth. And I think we both actually ran into a win-win situation.
So Vinay, you have always remained in the natural resources area. Your focus area has always been that.
Yeah, so I started with the ICM business, sir, with coal trading, which keep on getting the name change. Finally, it is having a name of integrated coal management. So it started with a volume of 200,000 tons, going up to 82 million tons of coal. Then went into the backward integration to mining business. It started with Indonesia mining, then got into India mining. Then this bunkering business, which actually came when Bashir joined me as a CEO, and after Bashir left, the business remained with me. So that's how I look after this 54 business. So natural resources has been my interest area. I believe anything which is below earth it pays me better than anything which is above earth. So my own story is always that it's full of failures. I failed many a times. I think considering the time constraint, I'm not sharing many failures with you, but my advice is always there that you please work hard, and once you work hard, go aggressive. I always believe that aggression is the best defense, and if you're aggressive on the basis of your experience, on the basis of your knowledge, on the basis of your hard work, on the basis of your homework, you will definitely be a case study for coming future. Now, as Jangbai asked about the businesses, I take care of 4 business for the group: India Mining, ICM business, which is the original business of mine, bunkering business, and Indonesia Mining. So we are the largest MDO. When you say MDO, it is mine developer and operator in India. MDO is a 30 years contract, which actually is one step below being the owner of the mine. We have everything in hand. We do all the investments. We run the mine as a owner, and we supply coal to the customers on the doorstep. Now you see, in last 7 years' time, from being nothing, being a toddler, we have become the largest MDO of India. And on the basis of figure, once we have the complete mine operational, which are 129 million tons, we'll be the largest mining and trading company of the world, competing with Glencore. And when I'm saying this, Coal India is not a mining company. Coal India is a company having 4 subsidiary companies which are independent mining companies. So SCCL is 1, MCL is 2nd, CCL is 3rd, BCCL is 4th, and then another company. So one company is having a maximum capacity of 100 million tons. So 129 million tons from here, plus trading will be 200 million tons plus capacity for mining trading, which will make us the largest mining company of the world. Now here we have coal and iron ore, but going forward we are also going to venture into diamond, gold, limestone, and this beach sand.
So Vinay, this is a very interesting, 1 minute, the previous slide. This is a very interesting map. Can you tell us something about how these mines are, the location, etc., importance of that?
Yeah, so if you see, I think you can very well see that in the map, we are mainly focused in Chhattisgarh. Our major mines are in Chhattisgarh only, but we are now diversifying to Odisha, MP, and with this commercial mining getting open, I'm sure we'll have some mine in Jharkhand also. If I talk about these mines, Parsai's Kanti Basin mine is fully operationalized now. It is in Chhattisgarh. We are at the peak capacity of 50 million tons. Khetri is adjacent block. Parsai is again the adjacent block of PKB. So all these 3 blocks are contiguous block at Chhattisgarh in area called Sarguja. Suliari is in MP. Gidmuri Pothuria is a block in Korba area, which is very close to Sarguja in Chhattisgarh. Talabira 2 and 3 are in Odisha. Kurmitar is again in Odisha, which is an iron ore mine. GP3 is in Raigarh, which is again Chhattisgarh. GP 1 and 2 is in Raigarh, slightly ahead of GP3. And Hingula Washery is in Odisha. Barila 13, which is an iron ore mine, is an excellent area of Chhattisgarh. And the commercial mining, we are likely to see some 14-15 blocks which are going to come in Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, and Maharashtra.
And these are all through the bidding process?
Everything came through bidding process. We participated in almost 50 tenders by this time, and we have won close to 14.
Yeah. So a very important part of this privatization or PPP is the way in which how the MDO model has been used in India, which is a very unique model, right?
Yeah, it's a unique model. We are pioneering this model, considering that we were the first MD of the group, first MD of the country, and then thereafter we are the only successful MDO now because all the parties who ventured into this business, because of not having expertise of starting a greenfield project, failed, and some are blacklisted, some are into legal tussles. Unfortunately for them, but fortunately for us, that now we have a less competition in this area also.
So the entire value chain of land acquisition, your whole process of mining plan, everything comes under this till then, right?
Yeah. So this is how it works. It's just like a bucket in which you have to facilitate your all the clearances, which is your environment clearance, forest clearance, your land clearances, many clearances. You talk about the clearances. Our country is really having this as a red tape where you have 53 clearances to get one mine operationalized. Then you have to do a land acquisition, very difficult project, very difficult activity of this MDO business. Then you have to do the INR. You have to shift the people from that land to different areas. You have to do the pre-mining activities, develop the mine, put up a CHP, coal handling plant, put up a washery if it is there. Do a railway siding, again a difficult job. We have constructed 72 kilometers, the longest private rail line in India at Sarguja to connect these 3 mines to the national grid. Then you have to excavate OB and then coal, and then you have to do the O&M of CHP, washery, siding, and other activities. And you have to take care of the statutory compliance.
So it is not just about taking out coal from the land. It's a very integrated, you got logistics, everything inside, right?
Yeah, it is. If I talk about excavation in OB work, in terms of importance, it is not even more than 10%. In terms of values, it is around 30%. And in terms of real doing activities, it is 0% because we outsource it. Our major focus and major thrust in the time goes into other activities other than excavation of OB and coal.
So understanding the business model and also understanding where the value lies is the most important thing in this particular. That's how you can ramp up to a very different level.
Yeah, so what we have done differently than others is that we know that there are many players to do OB and coal. It is something which is not requiring a big organization to get into this, and we hardly can improve upon the productivity and the results in this. We decided to focus on other activities where we actually have expertise, considering that we have done so much of power generation capacity and so much of port capacity added in the group. So using that synergy, using that expertise, we went into the other activities and we outsourced this activity to the small contractors. So this is how the business which made me looks like now. We are there in almost all the places in the country. Talk about any state, talk about any port, talk about any capital of the state, talk about any coastal area. We are there in small or big manner.
So how many ports you use now?
We use now 22 ports.
Yeah. So this is my most exciting, I think, image. It talks about really what it means to move logistics all over the country and from outside also Africa, Australia. These are the 2 important sources, right?
Other to amend my reply, we operated 70 ports because 22 ports are the ports which are there in India, but we operate from almost 35-36 ports in Indonesia. We operate from 3 ports of Australia, we operate from 2 ports of South Africa, and we operate from 2 ports of Russia also.
So students, here is a classic case whereby Vinay will tell you how do you. Am I audible?
It's very bleak, sir.
Yeah, here is a classic case whereby 70 ports moving, balancing the logistics, ensuring that in a timeless manner the entire logistics chain functions. You see, these are all commodities. Now, Vinay is putting value in the commodity by ensuring that the logistics chain is superb and extremely, which is another example of this scale. There is nothing less than like an Amazon of today. This is the scale at which Vinay operates, moving commodities all over the world. Okay.
So since we have used the word Amazon, I can tell you that we work with almost 350 suppliers. We work with close to 5,500 customers, and this has actually pushed me now to have a thinking process where we can have app-based cold marketing. So we are developing a software very soon. I'm sure that you will get experience if you get to see any of my team members after a few months. That we will be selling coal and buying coal and letting our customers buy coal up to a capacity, up to a tonnage through this app, which will be there in your Apple and Android phone very soon. So they'll be buying from that phone. They'll be putting their payments on that phone. They'll be getting the DO from that number. They'll take a screenshot of that. They will show it to the port and they'll take the cargoes. So overall communication and everything will get over. That's really something which I am now doing for this financial year to get implemented.
Very good. That's a real digital. You're actually made now a solution rather than a commodity.
Yeah, so it will become, and people are buying like that only. If they want to have 100 tons today, they will say, okay, fine, I want to have 100 tons today. I'm paying you. Please allow my trucks to get cargo loaded. Fine, you pay me on the screen, and you go and take your cargoes. I'm fine with that. So we keep on changing our number from 2 to 3, 3 to 2. So we are among the top 3 coal traders globally. We are the market leader in India with a 40% market share being maintained since last 14 years, now 15th year. We are the largest importer of thermal coal from Indonesia and South Africa. We are the largest coal handling agent in India. And we are having the widest range of sourcing amongst any trader. We are spread around 22 now. It's 20 ports in India, 22 ports in India. We are same-time winner of Coal Importer of the Year award at different forums. We are the largest solution provider through Sagarmala, which is moving from one coast to another coast in India itself. And we are leveraging technology to capture retail market. This is what I was telling about this particular software, which we have in some form now, but we are launching in a bigger form very soon. It's another business which I take care. Good in top line, not very good in bottom line, but this is a business where you see any port which is there. This is an old slide. Now we don't have to show a map of India. We can show a map of the world now, because we are supplying coal in Fujairah also. We are supplying coal in Amsterdam also. We are supplying coal in Singapore also. We are supplying coal in Colombo also. So we are supplying bunkers in these places also. So now currently, not only we are doing a stock and sale of bunker oil, which is a ship oil, we are also doing a trading at any ports in the world, which is helping us to grow our name across the globe. And we are the largest in India in terms of the market share, with 35% market share, and globally we are at the share percentage of 8% now.
Bunker is, you'll have to expand on the bunker, the definition. I think possibly many of them will not be aware about what does it mean.
So, sir, you said something, but your voice is.
Yeah, no, you'll have to expand on what bunkering means.
Okay. So it is actually the fuel oil which is being used in the ship which flies in the sea, taking cargoes from one port to another. So what happens? You store these oils in the various tanks at these ports, which you can see on India map, and the other ports in the world also. And when the ship wish to take that at any port, they'll go to that port. There are pipelines or there are barges which can supply fuel to the ships, and ship take the cargoes and pay you by transfer.
So it's a good add-on what you call as horizontal or vertical connection to your coal business or the port business?
Yeah, so this business helps us in port, because many of ports we belongs to us, and that is extra revenue to us. It helps because all these ships mostly some of the ships are chartered by us, and some of the ships are external agencies. So we get a relationship with those also. So it is again we were in coal trading business, and that's how we realized that we should have a port to handle those things. So we developed Mundra, then Tuna, then Hazira, then Dahej, then New Bangalore, then Goa, then Vizag, then Dhamra, and then now Krishnapatnam. Then we realized that we are supplying this coal to power plant. We went into power plant. We went into thermal power. We realized that why don't we have a renewable power? We got into renewable power. We realized that we should have been transmission. We went to transmission. So everything is going around coal, I believe, in this group more than any other thing. So
there's a lot of synergy synergy in all the activities.
Yeah. So we are using synergy of each other business to have the complete presence in the supply chain.
Yeah.
So this is the business where I learned about mining. I learned about how to do a mistake and how to learn from my mistakes. And here I share with you that when I took over this mine in 2011-12 from my predecessors, the cost of the mine was $30 per ton, and which we got it down to $11 per ton with a very simple process. I have not done anything. I was only nominated as a CEO of the business. And what I did, I actually asked everyone to put a document showing that what mistake they have done and what they could have done better. And not to my surprise, but to surprise for many persons, the first two pages was actually my mistake, which was a deliberate document prepared by me to push people to write it down. They wrote about all their mistakes which they have done. From those mistakes and from learning itself, I have created a document of what we should do to improve upon and what we should do to reduce the cost. It was a very simple activity. It took 2 months' time to get the document prepared. Got only 3 days' time to prepare a list of activities to be done to reduce the cost, and now we are at $11 per ton. A very classical case of turnaround of this mine, which happened because of the team, not because of the leader.
And you did the entire amount of construction. Everything is done here, right?
Yeah, so it is all in-house. So we had some Chinese equipment. We had. I think this has been always a very learning place for all of us to understand as where we can go wrong drastically and what we should never do in any business. So good learning for me at least.
Very true.
So this is how I take care of 4 businesses for the group, other than being there in some other activities, advising port, and advising power, and advising other businesses also.
So Vinay, before I take the questions from the students, let me ask you one thing. So what I see is that you are dealing in
Remember, your voice is coming very low. I think something has changed either at your place or at my place.
Yeah, am I audible now?
You can speak a little louder, sir.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. So Vinay, my question to you is that you have whether you talk about fuel oil bunkering, whether you talk about iron ore, or whether you talk about coal, it's all about natural resources that you have to source, and you have to go all over the world and procure and build up relationship. What is it that it means? I mean, you have traveled all over, build up large relationships, many times alliances. How does it work in terms of this global environment?
I'm sorry, I think you have to repeat your. Just a minute. Let me.
Students, whatever questions you have, you can start putting up on the chat. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, Vinay, am I audible?
You're audible, but here, you,
I think your volume is possibly has to be looked at.
इसका आवाज कम क्यों आ रहा है?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. My question to you is that. Hello.
Yes, sir. Now I can hear you.
Yeah. My question to you is that you are, whether it is fuel oil bunkering, whether it is iron ore, whether it is coal, it's all about resources which are spread all over the world. So how do you go about sourcing, building relationships, developing? It's not easy. In a very difficult period, how do you source such large volumes? And these are not small quantities. How do you source them? And what has been your experience over the years? How do you build up those relationships and the structures?
So, sir, in fact, one of the learning which I got is that one should be very clear about its commitment, their commitment values. And when you say commitment value, doesn't mean that you have to always perform even if you are losing heavily. You have to be always clear that when you're talking to any person, you should tell him that, look, I'm interested in long-term commitments, long-term values with you, and I will never go back from whatever I committed. That actually builds up your relationship. Secondly, that whenever you're going into any business, any country, any commodity, you should understand about the culture of the country. So when we went into Indonesia, we worked with the culture of Indonesia. When we went into the South Africa or Australia or UK, we actually started working their culture. So the understanding of a local culture, the understanding of the relationship, understanding it as how they respect each other, understanding how as China works, I think this has been the greatest learning which we as a business have got. And somehow I learned with few mistakes and few successes also that as how we need to identify our learning in all these countries differently. It has to be different way of working in different countries. We have to be aggressive in responding to the replies. And I think one of the great asset of ours is that we are very fast in decision making. Other thing is that unlike people who used to take a position of 200,000 tons, we used to take a position of 2 to 3 million tons at the time itself. So a fast decision making, spot decision making, developing relationship with everyone was the key of being in position to source so much of quantities. And I always believe that you should always have all the options available with you. Like Indonesia is the natural supplier to India. That's a fact. But it doesn't mean that South Africa will not be a supplier, or Australia will not be a supplier, or Russia will not be a supplier. At a given opportunity, they might also be a supplies coming from Russia or from Colombia or from US also, which will be a cheaper option. So we should always be there to seize these opportunities and take the advantage of these opportunities. And for that, you need to maintain relationship with everyone, and you have to be always connected with those guys. Last 3 months, I'm again back into the business on a hands-on basis. So I know from morning starting at 6 o'clock, going up to 12 o'clock in the night, before going to the bed also, I have everything in my hand that how much position I have, how much position I have short or long, which are the parties to whom I have responded. We make sure that any party who had asked for anything, we respond before going on the bed. That is something which we have learned and which has given a value for us to have a relationship with everyone and anyone in the complete world. And we are very fortunate to say that it has been a success that we have never defaulted with any party. Default means that the party who had actually considered as a default, we have renegotiated the contract to adjust some tonnages and make it a win-win situation for both. And we have not lost any partners in last 20 years. Anybody with whom we have worked, they're still working with us. No one has blacklisted us.
Very good. Vinay, I would also want you to expand, because your business is not just about buying and selling. You are dependent on huge relationships with shipping, port, rail, road. How do you manage all these large things that you don't control? I mean, you can control your customer and your supplier, but there are so many other things in your value chain. How do you, because it means that your people and yourself, you have to understand all those components as good as running them, and with this, the scales at which you're operating. How do you look at that?
So, sir, talk about the shipping. We charter close to 550 vessels a year.
Wow.
We are the largest charter of the world, the largest charter of the world. So when we talk about shipping, again, the way we handle in commodity, we handle the shipping line also. We deal with many vessel owners. We have not been blacklisted, or we have not lost any relationship with any owners. Their first preference is to have the agreement with the Adani Shipping. Similarly, in the port, even though we are not the owner of Gangavaram, we are not the owner of many ports, Kakinada, Nalaki, and even your Haldia port. But the way we do the volume with them, the way we work with them, we are sort of de facto owner of those ports. They treat us as the owner, and they give all the facilities to us. We get always the best price. We always get the best facilities and best the content numbers. And I always believe that it is a relationship which matters. How you work with others, how you respect your partners, how you handle the situation when you are in a crisis, and how you don't lose your calmness when you are in a crisis is what has been our learning and has been our success mantra also. We never lose calmness even if we are in a different situation where we are going to die after some time. Yeah. That's something which is the learning from chairman.
So you are a cool team. So that's a very good question that Dhruvel has asked. Sir, how do you choose your right team?
So, people might not agree with me, but I always try to see a person in the time of interview if he is better than me or not. The person who actually start getting into the mode of licensing, or what you call managing your boss, I dislike the person. In last 30 years of my life, I have not created any team of person who are actually close to me because of any those boss and subordinate relationship. They're close to me because they are performers. So I always try to see that I get a person who is better than me, either in terms of education, either in terms of experience, or in terms of aggression, or any attribute which complement with me. I might be having some attributes which are good in me, but I really want the other guy to be better than me in many attributes, at least to be in my team. And that's how I select my team. And I'm very happy that I have a team which is far better than me. I'm only doing a job of a coordinator.
So, Vinay, a very important question also comes up, is that it is estimated that coal would not last for more than 20-25 years. And government has even allowed commercial mining, which would further lead to increased competition between CIL, Adani and other players. So what will Adani Mining focus more on in future, being a market leader?
So for being a market leader, first of all, what we are doing or what we are not doing is actually not to be a conventional miner. So what I'm personally focusing, and this is something which again I always say that is my interest area, is to see that I do not want to follow what Coal India has been doing. To compete with Coal India, it is better not to do what Coal India is doing. So Coal India is having a manpower of 3.5 lakh. So their productivity is 350 ton per manpower. Now I want to see that I run the similar volume of Coal India with a team of 3,500. So you can say 100 times lower than that. And for doing that, I need to have partners who can take up my work at the price which is cheaper than being my in-house price, considering that my in-house price will also have my overhead cost and my way of working. So I'm choosing partners, compare them Coal India to scale up my numbers and also to be having lower cost, and also to have a lower employee numbers also. The other thing which I'm doing differently, which we are doing differently, is getting into a digital transformation. And this is not for the purpose of saying that I want to have autonomous trucks and this and that. We want to see that from end to end we have a digital mining, starting from bidding for tender to taking a payment from a customer. We want everything to move from move digitally only. Even the drill and blast should happen at my office, from sitting from my office, it should happen. That will help us not only to reduce the number of manpower, but also to bring a good talent in the team, also to see that we have a higher productivity. Because when you are using all this technology, you are not going to have the operation on the basis of man experience and estimation. This is going to be on the basis of algorithm. This is going to be on the basis of mathematics, which is going to run on millions and millions and trillions of data to get you what you are supposed to do to get a better results. And I'm confident that this journey of 3 years, 4 years to move from conventional to digital transformation, if happens, will make us too different than Kodak. I don't think anybody will be in position to compete if we are successful in digital transformation.
Thank you, Vinay. This was a question from Apurva. He's also asking, how does sustainability in mining done? By planting more trees, reducing pollution, or what?
So, I think this is one of the favorite subjects which I have now. When we talk about the sustainability, we talk about the very extreme conditions. I'll take a little more time here. When we talk about extremes, we say no, sustainability means that we should not cut any forest. So another question comes that if you don't want to cut the forest, from where you'll get coal and where you'll get the cheap power to run your economy. So for economy, you need to cut the forest. When you cut the forest, you get into another point that what is going to happen for the population, the society, which is actually dependent on that forest. So you need to see as how you're going to create employment, how you're going to create the other activities to make sure that these guys are independent and not dependent on the forest. Then coming to the fourth activity, that now you're going to cut the forest, how you're going to ensure that the carbon footprints are not there, carbon footprints are neutralized, and also you need to make sure that how this forest and non-forest areas are balanced. So the sustainability comes when you are balancing between these four. So we have created a formula. I'll share the formula with you, Jarang Bhai. We have created a formula with the help of a mathematician and some professors, where we have economy, ecology, society on the three axes, and we are trying to see that division of these three is minimized with the lower number of area which is coming. So on an axis, if you put all these three numbers, you might have to compromise a little in economy to have a better environment condition. You might have to compromise a little environment to have a better economy, and similarly you have to compromise between these two to have a better sociology. So all these three, if you balance in a manner that these three are not getting affected beyond their normal values, you will be able to sustain this for years to come.
Very true. Thank you. That Vinay, it's very good. That would be very interesting to see the whole balance structure and how it can be optimized. Ishita is asking if there are local issues after all the clearances awarded by government like Vedanta faces for bauxite. What precaution should private companies take?
So one of the precautions which anybody should take is to see that their image is not distorted. A lot of NGOs and the guys with the vested interests are doing that, but we need to see that we work with the intention to take the society along with us. What happened in that particular case was that the local person who was handling that project was not taking the local guys, the society along with him, and that became the small point became a bigger point, then became a far bigger point for Mr. Agarwal not being in position to handle it from London itself. Similar thing happened in Tuticorin also. I think these are the case studies which you as an MBA student will definitely study after some time to see as how such a successful company failed to handle this type of things. I believe we need to be hands-on, we need to be on the ground, we need to have empathy with these persons, we need to balance between what we aspire and what they aspire, and that's how, when we talk about stakeholders, it is not only the shareholders, the management or the employees, it is actually the persons who are getting affected with our projects on this type of areas also. So if we consider them as the stakeholders, I'm sure we can handle the problems like what what happened in Lanjigarh and Tuticorin also.
Thanks, Vinay. So you partly answered Ketan's question about the challenges faced in mining such as displacement and rehabilitation, and what kind of strategies should be built upon. Are there any specific strategies of how do you go about do the rehabilitation, or is it as per the...
So what we're doing, sir, is that in any project where we are getting in, we are first of all bringing Adani Foundation in the front, and we as a mining company is going in the back now. So what we are doing is, first of all, we are understanding and we are doing a very scientific study at any project area to first of all see as what is the condition in the terms of health, in the terms of education, in the terms of employability, in the terms of income, and in the terms of gender diversity also. On the basis of this, we create a complete formula. We discuss the Adani Foundation on a various capsules which we have created by this time to launch many projects which help them to see that they can diversify, they can divert from their current dependency on a forest, on that land to something else. They see that their next generation is getting educated. You know, Sarguja is a classical example, not getting that popularity and the media coverage because of the reasons which you are also aware. But I can tell you, not as a CEO of the business, but as an individual, my wife goes every year with me to see that activity as a part of our annual family day. And she talks about this independent guy, that the way these things are being handled in this place, this is the first. Everything is digital. Even the villagers, which were the tribal at one time, are using computer and using cards and using ATM for their payments. I think if you type Sarguja on Amazon, you'll find that there are ladies in those tribal villages who are actually selling their product, which is a bag or the food products on Amazon now. Amazon has recognized that this is a village where the ladies are many countries in the world. So you need to have a will and you need to have a heart to handle these type of things.
So it's
and it can be only handled by the team which is there. I can say something from sitting here, but another day it is the person who has to have a heart sitting there at the side itself.
So it's a very inclusive strategy that you adopted, right?
Yeah, so it's doing well. We might have to amend seeing some difficult conditions in Jharkhand and Odisha, but in Chhattisgarh it is doing well.
So we'll take a couple of more questions before we tire you. The question, I'm not taking the Australia part right now. I'm saying that Udit is asking, with the coal mining being now open commercially, what is your view? What will happen to the industry?
I'm sorry, sir. What is that?
With the coal mining being opened up for a commercial purpose, what is your view on that?
So, we need to go a little more into this, that to share with our young friends that the per capita consumption of India is still hovering out around 1,300 units per person, against 6,500 in China and 11 to 12,000 in Russia and in the US. So let us say that we don't talk about Russia and US numbers, but we talk about the China number also and discounted by another 50% or maybe 25%. We have a reason to go at least 3 to 4 times to the current capacity. So I personally feel that the requirement of coal is going to go up from currently at 800 million tons to 1.4 to 1.5 billion tons. If that's so, your commercial mining will also be adding up the numbers. The captive miner will also add the numbers, and your import coal will also come. We have the wish list. Our politicians are having the wish list of not importing coal or not, bringing coal to many customers. But I believe everything will go hands in hands only.
So the coal India
will also be there, coal will also be there, Australia will also be there.
So the coal India monopoly will not. It will be, in a way, it will go through a change, right?
So I think though even the government is saying that they want to push commercial mining, but if anybody goes into detail, at least I have those details in hand. there is a deliberate attempt to see that Coal India monopoly is protected. But the Coal India inefficiencies and being a big ship is going to help us to be in position to compete with them and to reduce the monopolistic situation. Even though they are being given a platform which is at say 30,000 level and we are being given a platform at 8,000 level, but their inefficiency is going to help us to bridge this difference.
Thanks, Vinay. One last question we'll take up. All about land. Mining is all about land. Ketan is asking what type of policies and models are carried out during selection of land for mining.
So there is no selection of the land for the mining. Mining normally on the basis of various studies, they decide that these are the areas where there's a possibility of getting some mineral. It could be coal, it could be diamond, it could be anything. And in that we do exploration first. The exploration means that you have to have a small drill of 2 inches, 3 inches or 8 inches, which goes from the earth to as low as 600 meters. And then when you take out the complete drill, it comes if the coal is there, it will come with the earth, coal, earth, coal, earth, coal. So you'll see that okay, this much of coal bands are there, and on the basis that you will work it out whether take out this type of coal, what will be your feasibility, financial feasibility, and on that basis, the decisions are being taken by the GSI or exploration company to do the mining. So for that, answer is that whether it is a revenue land or forest land or even the government land is there, it all depends whether the coal is there or not. Selection of land is not on the basis of area.
So I can't resist the last question from Manthan. We often face the situation where we have to choose between personal ethics and professionalism. How should we deal with that?
So it's like this, when we talk about personal ethics and professionalism, I don't think they are two different things. And I don't want to answer this very openly, but I can tell you that one thing which makes you a good professional, one thing which makes you successful or helps you in achieving something in a larger interest, you can definitely think of compromising with your personal ethics on certain aspects. Personal integrity and personal commitment values should never be compromised. But there are certain values which, when you are toddlers, when you are a young guy, you might have been taught by your grandparents and your parents, gets compromised when you are professional life. But that is for the larger interest or larger business interest, I believe should not be a worry for us.
So you're using the Chanakya Niti, I think. What you're trying to tell us is.
So, anything is fair in love and war, sir. We are good guys till the other guy is good. Otherwise, we know how to handle the things.
Very true. So there are lots of other questions, especially also on the larger global mining issues. What is your closing comment, Vinay? Apart from lots of things that you told us about your 7-8 large core habits that you have formed over a period of time, what is it that you want to tell us in terms of India in the next 20 years, where these people are going to have a tremendous amount of potential to go about something on infrastructure? Because you have, although you are in coal and related activities, you have seen the entire gamut of infrastructure right up to the social infrastructure also. What are you telling them that what lies ahead for them in the next 20 years?
So I'll tell something which I told to my son last Sunday. I think last Sunday or maybe last Sunday only.
Very good.
So just to share with you that my son is in UBC Vancouver. He is going to be 21 now. He's completing his 4th year and now he's taking a break to do some job. And again, so he was, in fact, but this is very interesting. You see how I can understand and relate with these guys because those are the same age of my son. His one question was that, Papa, now considering this pandemic, if I complete my 4th year now, he's having an option of doing 4th year now or taking a break of doing 1 year job and again coming and doing the 4th year. See his mind. He says that if I complete my fourth year now, I'll be getting for a job in 2021 where things are going to be difficult considering this pandemic. So I think I should, complete my this job which I just got, and then again do my 1 year, and then go for a job or MBA. And then he wanted to work in US or Canada only. So my reply, which I gave to him also last Sunday, was that look, first of all, what is coming to you as a challenge or as something which you have earned of yourself is very important. You know, you have to be clear. This job has come to you, or this internship which you did just now has come to you only because of your hard work. So you should not leave it, even though I said. Do it because this is going to give you confidence. This is going to give you some sort of having an understanding that yes, this is how I'm building up my profile. Now, talking about the countries, whether it is US, Canada, or it is India, I strongly feel that India is having a brighter future than these two countries. Now, getting about the fields, whether you want to be in infrastructure, you want to be in coal, you want to be in mining, you want to be in renewables, he's doing a lot of activities in renewables and really in electric cars. I said that is something which you should choose out of your interest, but you should not restrict yourself. Only thing which you should learn, and I tell it to my young guys also, my young friends also, that one thing which you should always feel is that you should try to get exposure as much as possible. Don't get worried about the future. You know, too much worried about the future is going to spoil your
Present.
Your present. Think more about how much exposure you can get either in this 2 years with working with this institute. You try to see the opportunity to talk to Devang Bhai or Dr. Kamal as much as possible. Get to talk to each other, do a brainstorming, doing a lot of case studies. Try to learn about other, good guys who were successful also, who had been failure also. You will learn a lot of case studies of companies like British Airways and many companies like GE who had performed very well for 100 years, Adani Group, how he had done it. But I think you should always try to see as what are the learnings which are taking and making you feel happy. End of the day, whether you are there in the age of Devang Bhai, you are in the age of my age, or it is your age. End of the day, important thing is that you should be happy in what you are doing, and that's the critical thing. So, my advice to him was that you should try to see what makes you happy and which gives you an attitude. Beyond that, nothing is there. You should learn as much as possible, have an attitude to go for any challenge, and everything else will be the stories only.
So I'll take Vinod, Vinay, I'll take two messages. One is exposure and another is enthusiasm, right? Enjoy. Two things.
And third is, I think we should add one more thing. Third, you should be happy in what you're doing.
Yes, exactly. You have to be really happy doing what you're doing. Thank you, Vinay.
This is all clipping and everything is what spoils your thing. Don't think about position. Don't think about money. Everything will come. You know, I've been lucky that everything had come out of own. I've never aspired for being this in this position or having these salaries or having this network. It all came by default. I was focusing on what I was given by
exactly. Focusing in your what you're doing. Very true. Any of the students would like to come on the voice and thank Vinay ji? Please come and say hi and say thank you to him, please. Any of you would like to do that?
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for telling us about your experience with the company and giving us so much insightful knowledge. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Sudhit.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Vinay. Thank you very much from all of us.
With you.
And we will see you more often. Yeah. Chirag, Ketan, yeah, Amit.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you, Vinay.
Thank you, sir.
Have a safe evening and see you soon. Okay. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks to all.
Thanks, Hiren.
Thank you so much.
student.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.